Total destruction protocol activated. Initiating countdown. 3, 2, 1, 0.
What's going on, guys? It's DennyPete. Well, shit, here we go. YouTube #1. Only took me a couple of years to get this thing finally moving and finally getting out there. And I got to say, even just to get this one finished, it's been a ton of work alongside doing work full time and then trying to stream here and there and still making clips and all that other stuff. But yeah, I'm glad to bring something forward. You know, we'll a little aim train series that I think has been just kind of helpful for me. A lot of this stuff, I mean, I'm sure different variations of this stuff are out there, but I wanted to kind of show my version and my system, and see just what you guys think. You know, I'm not perfect at FPS games, but it's definitely a lot more fun now. So I think what I'd like to do is kick it off and just maybe teach you guys a little bit about how I do things, and then maybe it helps you while you're playing. And really, that's the best thing for everybody. You know, if we could all get good at this stuff. So it's definitely a lot more fun. Yeah, let's go ahead and let's get into it, I guess. You can fix your aim fast. You're moments away from better aim at Rust. It's confusing trying to think about the best settings for aim when there's so many choices out there, and we all had to start somewhere. Whether you're new to PC or just couldn't quite figure out the best mouse settings for better aim, what if there was a system that could help you learn to watch your own aim, dial it in correctly so that you can start hitting more shots? We all see our own aim, but do you know how to look at it to be able to start seeing it in a way to make the proper adjustments? Talking about my own system I call EZ3. Am I the best FPS player out there? Hell no. Am I going to be? Probably not either. But what the system did do is make FPS games a lot more exciting for me once I got dialed in, a lot more enjoyable. I know when I show up to play, I can now see where my aim is at for the day and get dialed in. And here's the kicker. You don't have to leave your current game to get dialed in. Learning to see this system will work in AimTrame or the game you're in or whatever server. What's even better is while the system is built around Rust, steps in this system will work in every other FPS game too. And when you feel dialed in, you really start to have a lot more fun. And you know what? I think if this old guy can do it, I bet there are some other players out there that can use this method to become absolute machines. So for step 1, this is what I just like to refer to as the zones and how to see kind of the under and over when it comes to kind of cursoring over targets that you have set up. When it comes to dialing in your mouse, I don't really think it matters as far as DPI and everything goes anymore, because what I'm going to show you is as we walk through this video, is really kind of set up based on your own DPI and your own settings. So you really get kind of fit for whatever hardware, mouse pad, and all that stuff you're already using, because the settings are unique to you. So it's not like the settings that I have on here, which I'll show you in a little bit. It's not like you would take those same settings and then just go and try to use them. So each person's a little bit different. You should use your own settings that you're already kind of accustomed to, but use this system to get dialed in a little bit better. So from now on, I want you to start thinking of when you're trying to dial in your aim, I want you to think about at least 3 targets minimum. Think of their center lines. So you can see I have center lines here. Right over 3 of my targets. I also want you to think left and right targets. This target over here and this target over here needs to have equal spacing from left and right. And that's important, because what we're looking to really establish is we're going to start teaching you how to establish your flick. Your flick is what is going to get you on target faster from your center line. It's what's basically going to teach you what your actual mouse sensitivity should be based on where you land with your flick each time as you walk through this system. Let's go ahead, go on to the next page, and then we're going to talk about this a little bit more. I'm going to show you what I mean about these different zones, but So now we're taking a look at the same image and we still have our 3 targets, but this is what I mean by the under and over. So when I'm talking about the left-hand target and the center line, you know, if you flick from center and your mouse cursor doesn't land on the target, but it lands under, that's what we're calling under. If you start at center line and you routinely start to see when you go to flick to a target to your left or right, you land on the opposite side or the way outside, this is what we're calling over. So cursor lands here and then you have to readjust, that was over. If your cursor lands here with your flick and then you have to adjust your target, this was under. You're understeering your mouse and you're oversteering your mouse. Ideally, you want to land on center as many times as possible. And it's the same thing for your right-hand target too. So under is always to the inside, over is always to the outside of your target. And this is something that also works really good with a friend too. So if you are doing some aim train, I recommend having a buddy basically, you know, do a screen share in Discord, let them watch and just be the eyes for under and over. And then you can kind of get the feel for it. The steps, the way it'll basically work is you're going to do multiple rounds. You'll go into an aim train or set up some targets on a server. You can use mannequins like I did here. And you're basically going to learn to move your mouse left and right. And someone could call out left or right for targets for you, or you could do it yourself. I mostly want you to get used to looking as you move your cursor to a target. Does your cursor start to land under or over based on your current mouse settings? And that's going to be key on how we make adjustments going forward. Most of the time when I'm messing around with PvP, I'm usually shooting for probably most of the same servers that everyone else is using. Rust Reborn, Perfect Game Train, UKN. I know a lot of people are using helis now too, but these are 3 of the ones that I focus on when I'm trying to work on getting more dialed in with my aim. So let's go ahead and pop on Perfect Aim Train for this one. So for this one, we could just go into the targets for Perfect Aim Train. And for this one, we want to, let's go to the advanced target section. And you can see they got the yardages out here. For our purposes, I'm going to go up to the 25-yard line. Roughly about here. I'm actually going to move over to these guys a little bit, so I'm still kind of on this 25-yard line. But this target to the right and this target to the left, these immediate ones, they're a little bit more evenly spaced. So those are the ones that I want to use to try to understand where my aim is at. Now this is where it kind of helps when you have a friend kind of helping you out. So to get a feel for this, first we want to understand some kind of baseline for where our aim is at currently and what we have to adjust. If you remember, we used to have zones under and over. So in this case, if I see my cursor landing just inside of the target, that's under. If I'm landing to the outside and having to pull my cursor back in, that's considered over, okay? And we're always starting back to center line. And you basically want to challenge yourself to the left and to the right targets. So again, this side would be under and this side would be over. So now the way this works, just come in here and then just practice, just get a feel for it. Don't be too hard on yourself either, because who gives a shit if you're like, it doesn't matter if you're under or over. You just need to know where you're at for the day, because that's how you're going to adjust. And you may need to warm up a couple times first. In this instance, I'm not currently warmed up, so I don't know what's going to happen, but let's give it a shot. So if I just start doing some call outs in my head and I go left target, see, I landed way under. Right target, under again. Maybe we're not warmed up, who knows? Left target, over, left target, center, left target, under, and then a correction, left target, center, left target, under, left target, center, left target, over, left target, under. So you can see I'm feeling out in my head, like, am I mostly landing on this side or am I landing on that side? You know, am I landing under or am I landing over, or am I mostly on center line? And that's with my left flick. So if I check my right bias, flick, under, flick, about center that time. Right, under, right, over, right, over, right, center, right, center, right, center. You can see now I'm a little bit more consistent with my right hand side. So it could just be that my left hand side isn't warmed up enough. If I had to go ahead and get dialed in a little bit more, maybe I want to focus on where my right flick is versus my left, since that seems to be the more consistent side. So we're going to try this again. Left, under, left, center, left, under, and then correction. Left, center, left, about center. It doesn't have to be perfect. Left, over, left, left, center, left, center, left, center, left, center. Okay. So in that case, I'm pretty dialed in, but obviously I kind of know where I'm at. I've already done this a few different times to adjust from it, but what does that mean for you guys? Well, let's say in most cases you're landing under, right? Under, 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 under. It's an indicator that your settings, wherever your mouse sensitivity is, just your regular sense, is a little bit too low. And what we want to do is work to get that setting dialed in a little bit more so that you are on center a little bit, or at least your groupings are more on the center line of the target. I think what you're going to notice when you first do this is that a lot of you, when you go to do your flick, are probably going to be way to the outside or way to the underside. You know, if you're within a setting where you're pretty tight in the groupings, where the under and over isn't that much, you know, that is where we kind of fine tune some things. But I mainly want you guys to notice if, like, really feel out. Am I way outside and I'm having to correct back to center? Or am I way under and I'm having to correct back center? That's what I want you to start training your eyes to see, not just in the training range, but also when you're playing in the game. Anytime you miss a shot, I want you to start thinking, okay, when I flick to that guy, was I under or was I over? Because you can then start making some changes to your settings on the fly to get dialed in even in a current game. So now we're going to talk about some of the in-game settings, which is your mouse sensitivity. We're not necessarily going to get into the aiming sensitivity in this video. That's going to come in the second video I'm going to release, but I want to focus on this first one. And I think a lot of you guys are probably only adjusting your sensitivity through this setting, which, you know, is kind of limited depending on what your DPI is set at. So I want to forget about this setting. We want to know that it's here, but we're going to start going through the command console to make this adjustment. So instead of adjusting through the mouse settings, I want you to go ahead and open up your command line, and I want you to type in SENS, and you're going to see input.sensitivity is what pops up. This is the sensitivity setting that you've seen in the options menu, only now we could adjust it based more on the actual decimal points by itself. So I don't want you to just go and copy my setting unless you're running the exact mouse settings that I'm running. But I do want you to at least take note of it, how we're going to go ahead and adjust this. I'm going to use mine as an example. And then I'm also going to post another example too, just so you could see them side by side, how I would make this adjustment. So now that we've kind of played around with getting a feel for under or over on the range in aim training, I want to bring us back to those settings that I was talking about. So I want you to open up your F1 console and type in sense, and then I want you to write down the number that's listed. I want you to take that number, open up your calculator, plug it in, divide it by 10. So now you can adjust your sense higher or lower. Because if you remember, our mouse sensitivity or flick, in my case, I was all the way to 0. So if in any instance, if I had a bias where I was way too high, and I needed to adjust that flick sensitivity lower, I'm already out of room. But by dividing it by 10, we essentially give ourselves more room to play with, because the console can make adjustments outside of what's in the menu. And if we look over here, where I have some of these adjustments, you can now see, in this case, I divided by 10, my input sensitivity was 0.015, divided by 10, that's 0.0015. I'm just going to use 0.001 for simplicity's sake. So now that if I'm in an instance where I'm doing my flick and I keep landing in the under area and I need to adjust higher, I can go back to my console setting, and I'm going to adjust it up from 0.015 to 0.016 that we have listed over here. And then I'm going to constantly move it up and down based on where I think my bias is for my aim for the day, if I'm under or over. So I'm just going to be constantly tweaking it by that smaller amount. And the thing is, when you divide by 10, you're dividing your current number that you already have. If you need more sensitivity or more fine tuning from 10, change that number to 20. Divide it by 20 and then get your new calculation, whatever your new adjustment number is. If you need even more than that, divide by 30, or even more, divide it by 40, so that you're constantly walking into a smaller number for these adjustments. As you get better at seeing these adjustments when you're changing your flick, you're going to notice that you're going to want smaller increments because you're able to notice that little bit of difference in your aim and where it's at for the day. Also, I listed my settings up top. So I run DPI 5000. Don't ask, I accidentally set it to I used to run 800, but for some reason it got changed to 5000, and then I adjust all my settings in the menu, and now I got some super small number, but I'm so used to it. That's what I've been running. So if your mouse has it, I run a polling rate of 1000. My stock sensitivity for my flick is 0.015. That's what I keep as my benchmark whenever I need to, a fresh starting spot. And then my aiming sense, we're going to get into in vid 2, but I'm usually between 0.31 to 0.51, kind of depending on what I'm looking for that day. But anyway, I hope this kind of helps get you guys a better feel for how to adjust your sensitivity and how to start looking at the targets on the range. I like doing these competitive targets in perfect game train just to kind of get myself a benchmark to see where I'm at. You can see the last score I put up was 118, and my highest score was 86. So 118 is nowhere near where I want to be at. I'd prefer to be closer to within 100 to 110, I think is pretty good. 86, I was just going nuts that day. Just training, and it seemed like I couldn't miss any of my shots. Obviously, that's the score to beat if I want to keep training again. I haven't been playing as much, so 118 I think is probably fair for where I'm at. But I think you guys should give this a shot when you're messing around with your settings. Go in and run some competitive targets, set a benchmark, see what your time is, and then as you're making some changes to your flick, your under and your over, changing some settings, go back in and run competitive targets again so that you could adjust and see if you're getting better or worse. But anyway, let's go ahead and give it a shot again and see what we got. It's always there. It gets a little tough to see. Okay. So Yeah, way better. A little bit closer to what I wanted to see. 102 that time, down from the 118. In that case, so I noticed my sensitivity was a little bit too slow. Not on flick and ADS, but we're gonna get into that in our next video. So, but yeah, guys, give this a shot and then see what you think, and then let's go ahead and get to some closing points and wrap up this video. Yeah, I want to take a sec to thank you guys for stopping by. I had a ton of fun making this video. If any of the points aren't clear, you know, comment below. Let me know if there's anything I can improve on in the video, because I do want the series to truly be helpful. So this is video 1 of the EZ3 system. There's going to be 3 videos total to kind of get the system down. And then after that, the plan is to make some more, you know, kind of fine-tuning videos to talk about maybe anything that's missed, or anything that we want to continue working on. So please give me a follow at all my socials on TikTok, Twitch, Kick. I do stream quite a bit on there. I'm pretty active in the TikTok community. And if you're posting videos anywhere, feel free to tag me. Let me know if you're trying the system out. Let me know how it's working for you. Usually it's going to take a couple attempts to get it down, but just remember, really start training your eye for what you see when you're doing flick on targets, whether it's, you know, if your bias is under or if it's over, and learning how to adjust. But the more you can train your eye to actually see it in action while you're playing and knowing how you're missing, the better you are going to be able to do those fine-tune adjustments. Anyway, guys, really looking forward to the next one. So thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you later.